probably don't put much thought into cybersecurity. You know, your network connections, the pages you visit, the files you download. You should be thinking about these all the time. Welcome to And Security for All. Your host is Kim Hakim. We're here to help you understand, in general terms, how and why your cybersecurity should be kept in check. Now, here is Kim Hakim.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Kim Hakim, your host. Welcome to another episode of And Security for All. I hope everyone had a great week. And sorry about that.
Now, here is Kim Hakim.
My apologies.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday.
My phone's going crazy. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, you're ready for all.
All right, everyone. I'm trying to turn my phone off. I apologize. I don't know what happened to my phone, but let me start all over. I am Kim Hakim, as you know, and welcome to another episode of And Security for All. I was having a great weekend until that just happened and my phone went crazy. So sorry about that. I hope everyone's ready for a long holiday weekend and you're all ready for July 4th. Hopefully, most of you guys are taking Monday and Tuesday off. I know we are here at FutureCon. We have been working like crazy. We've been all over the country and we're excited to have some time off and recoup. So hopefully everyone gets to celebrate what a great country we live in and what a privilege it is to be here in the United States. So I hope you all have a great July 4th. I'm actually going with my son and his kids and his wife. We're going out to Florida. I don't know how relaxing that's going to be. We're going to be at Universal Studios, but it should be fun to have family time. So today I'm very excited for my guest. I actually, he was our keynote speaker in Denver, and I'm very excited to have him here today. He was a big hit. I have Merlin Namuth. He is the Chief Information Security Officer from Repay, Realtime Electronic Payments. His topic that he talked about out there was truths, myths, and maybes. And what does that mean? We're going to find out. But I'm not even going to read his bio. I think that would be boring for me to do it. I think it's way better to talk to him and let's find out all about him in person. So welcome to the show, Merlin.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, that was horrible. What happened? I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. I don't know what went on. Said my phone was on silent, but that's a first. But it is what it is, right?
Well, one how many times do we actually like shut off our phones? So it's like I probably have to think on how to actually shut my phone off. So
well, I know, and yeah, it's. I've been having some technology. Yeah, something must be happening out there because our backstage person, she was having some tech problems. So maybe it's one of those astrology days that something's going on with tech. But anyway, happy to have you here. So you were out in Denver. How's the weather in Denver?
It's a crazy spring and / summer now. I guess we're in the summer now. Since we did the conference, well, that was towards the beginning of June, I think it was, in Denver, and we've had extremely wet weather here. Normally, so Denver's kind of a dry climate, and I think on average we get somewhere around 15 inches of precipitation a year, and we have gotten, I think it's like close to 11 now in the months of May and June. It's been extremely wet. We actually had a thunderstorm come through this morning. Here it is, June 30th. I have yet to turn on the sprinklers to water my grass, which is about a month behind schedule, actually, because usually it's about the end of May. So I'm enjoying that, not having to use water to water my grass. But yeah, it's just really crazy. So it's a little difficult to get out and enjoy the mountains without getting wet and muddy.
Yeah, I saw you guys had that big hailstorm and there was a concert in your Red Rocks, and a lot of people were injured and stuff out there. I was actually out there last weekend. I went there for the George Strait, Chris Stapleton concert. So you had downtown, you had about 300,000 people for that. And then you had Pride weekend, which was another 500,000 people. So, and there was no rain. It was actually a really beautiful weekend. So, and I've never really spent much time downtown. So that was different and fun.
Nice.
And it was a gift I bought for someone. I'm not really a country girl, but it was definitely a fun people watching experience last
Yeah.
weekend downtown. So anyway, and did I mess up your last name? How do I say your last name?
No, no, you got it right. Yeah, it's
Oh yeah,
Namath,
it's just like Joe Namath. I think I said
Joe
that.
Namath.
Yeah, when we were talking in Denver.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, how did we chatted a little bit, but how did you tell us a little bit about your career path and how you ended up as a CISO? And lots of people out there want to know, how do I become a CISO? So how did you get there, and where did it all start for you, Merlin?
Yeah, and I think my path, my story is kind of similar to a lot of other people who've been in security for a long time. Um, that I did not major in computer science or anything related to that in college. So even before that, I'm originally from Nebraska. I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, and I went to college. In my undergrad, I started off as a chemistry major of all things, and after just the first semester of Chem 101, I was like thinking, I'm like, wow, do I really want to spend 40 hours a week working in a lab? And so I actually changed majors. I changed to psychology. And after I graduated with my psychology degree, I went to grad school and majored in social work because I was going to be a family counselor. I graduated with a law student loan debt and realized I wouldn't be able to do that. And I ended up in computers. So my journey to making technology my career started in my undergrad. I think it's about my sophomore, maybe junior year. I started working in the student computer lab, and so this is way back. I'm definitely older, so I'm showing my age here. But this was like running on Novell Network. People were using WordPerfect for DOS. Just those ancient, now ancient applications. And so my job was to help people like with those applications and clear printer jams and things like that. And then when I went to grad school, the social work department had just gotten wired for Ethernet. Their building had gotten wired, and so I was kind of poking around trying to find a work study employment, and I ended up getting pointed to the lady in the social work department who was in charge of making sure that all the systems were connected and working on the now connected social work department, and dealing with any issues. And she had no computer background whatsoever. So I ended up doing that. I did that for a year. I also created like the first website for the social work department that summer. They hired me to work full time that summer, and then the following year I worked for the campus NOC. When I graduated, again, I graduated with a fair amount of student loan debt that I wouldn't be able to pay back very easily as a family counselor. So I decided to go ahead and pursue technology. I moved to Denver, and I've been here ever since. So I started off like the first 3 years of my career doing IT, and then I took a checkpoint firewall class in the late 90s, and I became smitten with security from then on. Yeah, I credit that to Checkpoint. I actually still have my course books from that course because it's means a lot to me, because that's what really steered my career the way it is now. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that. So I was hands-on technical for several years, doing engineering, architecture, incident response. I spent a number of years on a dedicated incident response team. I did digital forensics on that team, and then I started moving into management. So, in my role as CISO of Repay, this is the fifth security program I've run. It's my second one with the CISO title. I always make that distinction because it does make a big difference if you have the CISO title or not when you're running a security program. And that just kind of brings me to today.
So what does tell us a little bit about Repay and what they do, and what is your, I mean, we most of us probably know what your primary role is, but how big is your security team? And again, the first part of that is, what does Repay do?
Yeah, so Repay is a fintech company. We have several different solutions. Repay has made a large number of acquisitions in the recent years after they went public. And so, yeah, we move money, we process money, Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe the company. So there's a lot of different technologies, and because of all the acquisitions, I've had to deal with some very interesting challenges for mergers and acquisitions type security. Putting together like a good checklist when we acquire another company, and then just some of the things that need to be done in the first 30, 60 days after the acquisition, the deal is signed, to be able to get to, some of the key areas that migrate over. Like for example, one of the challenges is that when you acquire a company, that people in the company that's being acquired, some of them are like, oh, Repay, oh, that's too big of a company. We're about 500 employees, and so for some people, they're like, oh, I'd rather be in a much smaller company, and our acquisitions for the most part are smaller companies, and so they just don't want to work in that environment, and so it's really critical to make sure that you get that knowledge transfer done with those key individuals, to make sure that you have all their like different sites, like maybe SaaS sites or servers or what have you, that they have administrative access to. You need to make sure that you get that transferred over, so that way, if they do end up leaving, that you're not caught in a really tough position trying to figure out how to get into a critical system or a site, and you have no credentials for it. Yeah, so that's what we do. I am continuing to build out my team. I have lots of compliance activities. We do SOC 1, SOC 2s, PCI, HIPAA, ICFR, since we're a publicly traded company. And on the technology side, we're just continuing to we have made some major tool purchases. We're kind of done with that for now. We'll make some more in the future, but it's like, with all of the mergers and acquisitions, of just consolidating tools, getting rid of tech debt, and standardizing on the security stack. So we did acquire another company. I think it's been over a year ago now. It was the last acquisition, so about a year and a half ago. And it's like, after we acquired that, it's like, okay, boom, here's the security stack, and this is what will get applied in your environment. I don't care what you have in place, but this is what we're going to do. This is our standard. And then we have centralized management for all of that.
So did you was your last CISO role, were you in financial as well?
No, I was not. I was CISO of years ago of Red Robin, the restaurant company, and so I do have experience, on the merchant side. I have a few different experiences of that, and then it's interesting being on the payment side, because it's very different, but there are also some similarities. Like, I had quite a bit of experience with PCI before coming here, which of course is really key to us.
I would think being on the fintech side is a little more stressful. I mean, do you get much sleep these days?
Yeah, it is stressful, but it's fun though. I like a challenge, and it's a different challenge than I've had in my career, but it's one that I really enjoy.
Well, so your topic that you spoke in Denver was truth, myths, and maybe. So I want to kind of get into that, because you filled, an hour, and you got great reviews from our attendees. Our attendees in Denver wasn't as high as it typically is. We kind of had all the odds going against us, because we were there the day that your basketball team, what are they called? The
Nuggets, yeah.
The Nuggets. That was like, there was a Nuggets game that night, and then the next week was that big tech company, that big tech conference that's just Denver based. But we still had a really great turnout, but it still wasn't the best time to be there. It'd be like the Cardinals going to the World Series and us having a conference that day. Most people are getting ready for the Nuggets game, but
Yeah.
congratulations that you guys I had no idea about the Nuggets until I was in Denver, and I was happy to see that you won the whole thing. So
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's pretty crazy. I still have to kind of like pinch myself and be like, wait, no, the Nuggets actually won the whole thing, because they've been just a pretty average team, like, for their entire existence, and so it was pretty exciting to see them finally win after what was it, like 46 years, I think, of that the franchise has been around.
Yeah, that's fun when you're involved. Like when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, it had been our city went nuts. So I imagine Denver probably went pretty crazy that weekend when that
Yeah,
happened.
and
But anyway,
yeah, and St. Louis is definitely a sports city. That's where I went to got my first master's degree. I was in St. Louis, and that's as much as Denver is all about football. St. Louis
mhm,
is all about baseball. It's all
yeah,
about the Cardinals there. So
yeah,
that was pretty neat when I lived there.
yeah, it's pretty fun. It's too bad the Cardinals aren't doing too well this year. But anyway, that's a whole nother
Well,
topic.
we have the Rockies who lost, what was it, 25-1 or something like that the other day. So yeah,
Yeah. I have to say, going over to the Mile High Stadium and trying to Uber out of there, I felt like it was like I was in a apocalypse. It was like it's almost like it's its own island. Getting off, I don't know if you've
hmm
ever had to experience that, but that was crazy. Like the traffic to get, I can't imagine what the football games are like every weekend. Must be
yeah,
crazy.
yep,
But
absolutely.
anyway, but back to truth, myths, and maybes. Tell us a little bit, if you could let like my audience know what you talked about and what let's just kind of dive into that and what does that mean?
Yeah, so about a year ago, I decided to start blogging on LinkedIn, and I'd been thinking about it for a while. I was like, well, what do I really want to blog about? And I've been doing security for over 24 years now, and in technology for a little over 27. And I was like, I just happened to stumble across this that I keep hearing people repeat things that aren't necessarily true, or there's more more consideration that needs to be taken into what's being said. I think there's a lot of generalizations that are being said, and without people really understanding or considering what else is involved with these. So what we can do, Kim, if you want, is we can just start going through each one of these. We can have this brief discussion and just kind of move through each
Yeah, I
topic
would
that I brought up in that.
absolutely. I would love to.
Okay, awesome. So the first one I talked about was that I often hear people say, well, that HR creates unrealistic job descriptions. And so this is usually in the context of, we have a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. I think, what is the number now? I mean, it keeps changing. It's like, what are they saying now? Like 2.5 million worldwide or something like that. And I often hear people say, oh, well, one of the obstacles of people landing cybersecurity jobs is HR, and they say that HR creates unrealistic job descriptions. So it might be like requiring 10 years of experience when maybe only 2 to 4 years are needed, or requiring 20 years of cloud experience when the cloud hasn't been around that long. And so what I did, and this was my first post that I did on LinkedIn. So as I was thinking about it, I'm like, wait, I think people are looking at this in the wrong way, because for I think I don't recall a time that I've been a leader that I haven't written my own job descriptions. HR reviews and approves them, but I'm the one who specifies the skills I need and the number of years that I feel are necessary to demonstrate proficiency in those areas. And so yeah, so that was just the first thing I brought up with the audience.
And then what was your then let's just keep moving on. So you
Okay.
talked about that and then you moved into your next point.
Yeah, the next one is that I hear people, and there's lots of webinars on, like, how CISOs are supposed to speak to the board. And, people will often say, well, the board, they'll say that the board doesn't want to hear the tactical planning, just the strategic planning. They just want to hear the end results, but not the steps for how the security leader is going to get there. And so the generalization is that boards aren't technical. The problem with this is that generalizations and assumptions can just really land you into trouble. So when I hear statements like these, I think back of a major concept that was taught in my freshman English 101 class, of that you need to know your audience. So I present in the course of my career, I presented the boards that had little technical knowledge, and those boards were mostly made up of like CEOs, of other companies, and so they really only wanted to hear the high level details. And then I presented to boards who are very technical, and they want to know the low level details of how I'm going to get there. So it's really important to know what your audience is. So one things that can be difficult, like if you're a CISO in a new, if you land a new CISO role, and you're just kind of learning the lay of the land, you don't going to necessarily know right away before you present to that board of what they really want. But it is important that you set the right tone, because first impressions do mean a lot. Also in presenting to the board. So what I recommend in those situations is that you speak with your other C-level leaders, like the CEO, CFO, CTO, whoever, and just ask them, what sort of material do you present to the board, and what level of detail is the board looking for? Are they interested in technical detail, or they want just a high level such as that? So, and then also, another thing I presented to the audience at the FutureCon Denver was that, of course, you need to be very prepared when you go into the board meeting. And so when I go into the board meetings, I'll really after I put together my material, I try to put myself in their seat and be like, what questions would they potentially ask me? And then I'll come up with my answers. So that way, when they ask me, those questions, then I have, I'm really crisp with my responses, and can just really provide the answers that they're looking for, are looking for to their questions. And there's times that you'll be asked questions that you don't know. And so it's okay to say that you're not sure, but assure them that you're going to do some research, you're going to check into it, and then you'll get back to them with that answer. And then also the final thing I said about presenting a board, which I don't hear in like these different webinars and sessions about how you're supposed to present to the board, is that build a relationship with your board members. Keep in mind that it's likely that they serve on boards of other companies, and those other companies may not even have a CISO. And so you can help them be successful in their other board positions. So like take, for example, like when the LastPass breach happened, send some articles to the board members outside of your regular, quarterly or however often you speak with the board members, just to send them an email with that information, with a little bit of your opinions and thoughts on it, just to help them, to be prepared. So, when you share with them, that turns into a partnership. I do have CISO peers who are like, man, my relationship with my board is adversarial. And sometimes it's going to be that way. It depends on the makeup of your board. But if you kind of extend an olive branch and try to partner with them, then I think that can help that at least be less adversarial.
I have a couple of questions on that. You also sat on the CISO panel later that day in Denver, and there was a list of questions, and those questions were originally, I try to keep them as updated as I can, but I had a CISO write those questions up for me like a year ago, and I was like, okay, I need to update these now. And with ChatGPT, it's kind of a nice little tool to throw those questions in. But one of the questions on there, and I don't know if I had them on there when you were there, it was about the board. And I'm not certain, do you feel it's important when our audience is a mix of, we do have CISOs in the audience, but a lot of senior level directors, maybe even some senior level engineers, maybe even some mid-level people. Do you think it's important for them to even hear those questions and what the CISO has to deal with the board? Is that something important for them to hear? I took it out because I felt like that wasn't very pertinent to them, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it is important because so how I structure it with my team, because my leadership style is very much servant leader. So I tell my team, like, I get the pleasure to go brag about what you are doing to the board, and so it's important for them then to get that feedback back from the board of like, hey, I wish you guys were doing things this way or that way, or I wish I'd you change your metrics in a certain way because it doesn't give me a clear picture. So yeah, I very much communicate that back to my team and they even ask me like if I don't volunteer it, they'll be like, how'd the meeting go? What came up in the meeting? So I think when you approach it that way of that, I'm a spokesperson for my team. Now I'm the leader, of course, but I'm the spokesperson to the board representing my team, and so it's important to try create a bi-directional communication path that way.
And then the second part of my question is, have you seen a change with the board being more interested in what's happening on the security teams in the last, 3 to 4 years when we've seen so many public breaches that we're seeing now on the news? And I feel like it's more in the forefront than it used to be probably before COVID. Are you seeing the board more interested in what you have to say now versus 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, it's definitely very different than it was 5 years ago. Especially like ransomware is a huge problem, and so the board. I mean, they read some of the same articles you do, and so they're like, wow, this could be a really big expense and to the company. It could take a big reputational hit if there's a breach. So yeah, the board's very interested in that. And then now with the SEC rule that comes into effect this year, that where boards are held more accountable for cyber breaches, and of course, they are very much more interested, and and CISOs need to be prepared for that because you're going to be asked some hard questions, and you need to have some good answers to that, or at least a good plan in place of like, yeah, we're not doing this currently, but here's a plan for us doing that in the future, in the near future. Or so I also share a roadmap with the board, and they're welcome to provide feedback. Be like, well, we don't think that this is quite as important. We're really concerned about this. What are your thoughts? And so, the board is definitely much more engaged.
Well, I would think, 5 years ago, people's mindset, well, it's not going to happen to us. And I don't think people are thinking that way anymore, that it could very well happen to us any minute. So, it's, and especially you're in a financial company. So that to me, I would think your board should be pretty invested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then too, when you think about like 5 years ago, people I think referred to security more as IT security, and now they're realizing it's like information security is much more than just IT risks. That there's a lot of company wide risks that we deal with.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of our motto on our website is, security is not just an IT problem anymore. And it hasn't been an IT problem especially since COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID. It never really was, but now people are more accountable for it. And people definitely, when people ask you what you do, I know I've been doing this for 20 something years. They're like, oh, you do that. Not, like, I don't know. People are more invested, especially since Chat GPT has come around, that definitely has triggered a lot of conversations. And if we have time, I do want to talk about that, but I want to keep on the path of what your next point is. And
and a little bit to kind of close out that thought a little bit is that, and this was one of the things that I brought up with the audience, is that one of our successes in cybersecurity is that most people in the general public know what a phishing email is. That's great. I mean, phishing email is like a huge threat vector. That's a big percentage of breaches and compromises are started from a phishing email. So that's great that the general public actually knows what that is and has a little bit of understanding of what to look for. For malicious links and poor grammar and poor spelling, those kind of things. So I mean, for those of us who've been in security, be like, yeah, well, I've known that for the past 15 years or whatever. But the general public now knows about, which I think is great, that they're able to have that knowledge and be able to protect themselves.
And I think that like mainstream media and, there's been so much, especially again, I keep bringing up COVID, but I feel like all these streaming channels have so many documentaries on, things that have happened to people that it definitely, people are more involved in what's going on with the world and becoming more aware. But unfortunately, the bad actors are just getting more trickier and trickier. So, again, the general public still can be fooled pretty
Mhm.
easily. I mean, we all can be fooled pretty easily, but hopefully we're definitely evolving.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. It's probably not the percentage that we want to see that aren't falling for this, because think about it, it's like we all still get telemarketing calls and scam calls like that. So I mean, those people are still doing it because they're effective and they're able to scam people out of their money and they make money off of that. So yeah, so
Yeah,
we still got to keep working.
I had one that was it tricked me. Luckily, I didn't get too involved into it, but Palo Alto is, one of our customers, and I don't, I told them about it. And Cloudflare, I've had some things going on with them, and I don't think I'm being bad saying their names, but it's just, we sell them account and then it says spam call and, they're calling to
Hmm.
verify my bank information. And I'm like, I've never had anyone call me on the phone to verify my bank information. I'm not comfortable with that, So I'm like, I think this is a phishing call, and then the person hung up. But it's just so easy as a consumer still to think that you trust who's calling you, and especially if it's a big name like Palo Alto, you're just like, and it's
Hmm.
just crazy to me that those simple things that if I was just in accounting and they called me, luckily our accountant, they called her too. And she is not even tech savvy at all. And she didn't answer their question. She's like, yeah, I've never had anyone call me and ask me this. You're going to have to call our CEO and ask her. And they did.
Yeah.
But it's just still the telemarketing calls. They are very tricky, but the phones are getting better because they do say spam alert on it,
Hmm.
but not all of them are spam. So it's
No.
a tough call. So
Exactly, and then it's like altered everybody's behavior. So it's like very rare. I mean, if I get a phone call and it's not a number I recognize, I just don't answer it. And whereas, I mean, I don't know how many years ago, it's like you'd answer like every call that came to your phone, but it's like not anymore. And so for me, it's like either a spam call or it's a vendor,
yeah, we
unsolicited
we
vendor.
had
So
that. Unfortunately, we're a smaller company and we go through like a remote place that our phone calls come into, and they if they a lot of times forward to my phone. So I have to answer it because I think it's a customer, and 9 times out of 10 it's not. It's a telemarketer. But the one time I
mhm,
don't answer it, then I get that voicemail and then I
exactly,
feel bad, but anyway, so going
yeah.
on to your myth number. So we've covered 2 or 3. Are we going on number 3?
Yeah, we'll go on number three now. So
Yeah.
next one that I went into is that and again, is this a truth? Is it a myth, or is it a maybe of that you need to have cybersecurity related certifications to be effective, land a job, or to be taken seriously in the industry? There's arguments for both for and against all those notions. And then in addition, I think people have just as strong opinions of like whether you should maintain the certifications or let them expire. So there's twice in my career that I can think of that I moved into a new job at a new company because of certification I had. But when I really think about it, was it because of the certification or was it more because I had a certain level of knowledge I was able to demonstrate because I'd gone through the steps of taking the course and taking the certification exam? Um, like a lot of people who've been in a career for a long time, like me, I've had a number of certifications over the course of my career. I let many of them expire. Like I don't think I need to have my MCSE for NT4O anymore. So of course there's no way I'd be able to maintain that anyhow. But I just kind of say that in jest. But there's a number of those kind of certifications as I had. I just let them expire. But there's some I still maintain. some because of what it took to earn them. Some of them were difficult. For some people, the CISSP exam is easy. I did not find it easy when I took it in the early 2000s. And so I still maintain that. I also still maintain my project management certification, professional certification, the PMP, because that was also a tough exam to pass. So I have a lot of pride in being able to pass those exams. And so, I still want to maintain those at least through the duration of my career. I do maintain a few SANS certifications because in my role as a CISO, it's like I'm not hands-on technical, but it's important for me to stay at least have technical understanding to be able to support my team. And then plus also, I'll get pinged, several times a week, be like, hey, Merlin, if we do this, is this going to be secure? Well, I need to have technical understanding to be able to, provide the right answer for that situation. A few years ago, I took a few AWS and Azure courses and the related certification exams. And again, I just took the exams because it forces, a person to dive deep into material and really learn it in order to pass the exam. So when those certifications expire, I really have no intentions of renewing them. As a hiring manager, I do look at certifications that people have. It gives me an understanding of different areas of cybersecurity the individual knows. I mean, there's so many different areas of cybersecurity, as a lot of people know, compared to when I first started off my career, which was basically like, oh, we had a firewall, we might have like free snort for IDS, and we had antivirus, and that was about it. We didn't really have much else. We patched systems and we hardened systems, but that was about it. Security is a lot simpler back then than it is today. So it is important for me to just see what certification someone has. And one thing that may be an indication, again, I'll make a generalization because it may not be accurate for every situation, but it might indicate that the person is a lifelong learner, which I do firmly believe that is an important quality for anyone to have a successful career in cybersecurity, because it is always changing. And you have to have that curiosity and desire to go out and keep learning and keep furthering your skills, so that way you can keep up with all those changes.
Do you find that some of your security team, especially the younger ones, are coming in with information where you're like, wow, I didn't know that at your age, because we have, progressed so much of what they're learning in, school or wherever. Are
Mm-hmm.
you learning from your team?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've said this for most of my career, of that I can learn from the most senior person, I can learn from the most junior person. And again, that really is one of the reasons why I really embrace servant leadership, because it just keeps you open to that, instead of like, I'm the boss and you're gonna like just do what I say. It's like, no, there's so many different things to look at and perspectives that like for example, my compliance analysts, they're seeing our environment from a different angle than my technical people on my team. And so they're involved in a lot of the technical decisions, because they'll be like, yeah, well, what about this, in this particular environment, if we were to implement a new technology. So yeah, I think you just have to be open to that, because people they also come from different backgrounds too. So there are people who may have went to law school and they're working in cybersecurity, so they're going to have a different perspective on things. So I mean, I've been people just come from a lot, like I said, just a lot of different backgrounds. I mean, I have no technology degrees for my college degrees. I have 3 college degrees, and none of them are in technology. So I have a different perspective on some things than others do who came through, maybe a cybersecurity program.
Well, having a great team is priceless. So I can definitely say that, because I have a great team, and you can't do it without a great team. And it's not easy always finding a great team, but when you have a great team, you have to take care of your team. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
The other question I was going to ask you was on the certifications. I have no idea, because I'm not an IT person. When you do your certifications, are you just doing those online, or do you still have to like go to SANS classes, or how do you do your certifications now?
Yeah. So for like SANS, you can do it remotely. my most recent SAN certification, which was I think like 3 years ago, maybe. I did that online. It was, if I remember right, I think it was. I don't remember. So I know SANS has like a few different options. You can do virtual on demand. So those are recorded sessions, and then you play them back at your leisure, and when you have time and you work your way through those. They do have virtual live courses, and then they still have in person. So they can really accommodate whatever works best for you. And then in terms of taking the certification exams, I I don't remember for SANS. I think it is. I think it is true for SANS. I think you can take the certification exam from home. You can take it virtually. I know for the AWS and Azure exams that I took 3 years ago, those are all virtual, and it's kind of interesting. So I sat myself in my spare bedroom, and when you get online, you have to take your laptop and pan the room so that way they can see what's in the room and see if you have any cheat sheets or anything like that around. And so I feel like they do a pretty good job, I think, of ensuring the integrity of those exams by doing it virtually. But yeah, it's nice to have that option, especially for people who, with COVID, with people like fleeing large metropolitan areas and going to more rural areas. Like they may not have a testing center that's located close to them.
That's exactly where I was going with that is how do you know the integrity of some of these exams, especially now that we do have, well, we've always had Google, but now we have Chat GPT that can, answer a lot of that stuff. How do you think that's going to affect the integrity of some of the exams that maybe they're not making you pan the room, Where do you
Yep.
see the future of just the honesty of people and where we're moving when it comes to, because I can't imagine, maybe SANS is a little stricter, but is every one of those certifications that strict?
Um, so when I took the Azure and AWS exams virtually, and again, I don't recall. I think the SANS one was virtual, but I just don't remember. But I do know that when I took those virtual exams for AWS and Azure, and I don't remember which testing center. It's through one of the major ones, if it's Pearson or some of the others. So I'm not endorsing any of them, but there's
Mhm.
only just a handful of them, and so I had to install their software on my system, and so their software will detect if you have a browser open, and
Wow.
so you have to do everything through their application, and you have to stay within. You have to have your camera on, and so they have proctors who are watching you, and your microphone is on, so they're monitoring you pretty closely with what you're doing. So with that, I'm not worried about ChatGPT. Now, again, if someone really wants to cheat, they're going to find some creative way of getting around that. Just like our attackers, find creative ways of breaking into our network. So, but yeah, I think it works, and I think the testing centers are in front of it. At least they were 3 years ago.
I know that a friend of mine who's an attorney who has to keep his certifications up for being an attorney, he was telling me, once a year, he used to have to physically go to these classes, but now they can do them online. Like you have to be watching the camera because at any given time something will pop up. It says enter 123 or something, just so they know
Oh,
you're there. And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I was trying to figure out how to do that when we were in virtual only, but I could, are my attendees really there? Because I'm sure sometimes a lot of them aren't,
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but I find that interesting that, people have had to be so creative to just make sure, because we do live in a virtual, we run all of our events hybrid. It's not about COVID
Hmm.
anymore. It's just about people's time. And like you said, people have moved out far away and they can't make it to venues. And we're just, families have gone down to one car because they don't need two cars anymore because, maybe one of the they're working from home. I mean, their life is different than it was 5 years ago. So I
Yeah.
think we'll continue to evolve to make sure people are keeping, the integrity of, even college students. But I do know that professors cannot tell if something was done by chat GPT. So I've talked to a few of them. So it is very interesting. I know
Yeah.
we're starting to get to the end of the hour. So let's try to get to like your next, I don't think we'll get to all your points, but let's get to your next point.
Yeah, I think we probably have enough time for maybe 2 more points, and
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's one I definitely want to end with. So yeah, I
Okay.
just kind of scanned through that. I was watching the time, so I was kind of scanning some of the ones. I think a good one here that to bring up is about security awareness training. You know, I mean, does it really reduce the risk in the organization? And so, one thought is like, well, yes, I mean, it does because people just want to know what to do. That everybody wants to help keep the company secure. They just need to, have the tools and knowledge to do so. There's other people who take the approach that like, well, the training is needed only for compliance reasons. And so that with that, we need to have as many technical controls in place as possible because we just can't trust our employees to make the right decisions. And so, more discussion on this, like everybody knows, like, with the security awareness training, they cover various topics such as phishing emails, removable media, creating and safeguarding complex passwords, physical security, Wi-Fi, using mobile devices in a secure manner, and so on. I have to say, I think the training has greatly matured over the past several years, especially from when it started off with early in my career. It's much better. They include gamification in the training now, so it keeps people engaged and make it fun. And but the problem is that, or at least one of the problems is that I still think that security awareness training isn't as effective as we'd like it to be because we're just telling people what to do. Nobody wants to just be told what to do, or most people don't. And here's the disconnect is that we're just telling people what to do, but we're not telling them or teaching them what the consequences of what the consequences of their actions or inactions are. So, like, if they click on a link in a phishing email, it's like, okay, so what? What does that really do? The security awareness training, it does do a little bit better job of showing that, but I think it needs to be personalized a little bit more to individuals so they can really understand that. And in my session, in Denver, I brought up an example of security awareness training, but it wasn't related to cybersecurity. So it was actually related to physical security. So late last year, I visited Volcanoes National Park in Hawaii. And I don't know if you've been there, Kim. Have you been to Volcanoes National Park?
I have actually. I was in the military and I was stationed in Hawaii for 4 years, so I have.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So
Yeah.
do you remember like along the walking path that they have these signs of like danger, stay on the path, don't go off the path?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't been to Volcanoes National Park, they have these signs, and if you go off path, you could actually fall into a steam vent. So it looks like it's solid ground, but when you step, it could be like really soft, and you fall into a steam vent and get seriously injured. And there's also a placard that described or gave details of a story of a young child who got seriously burned because of going off trail. But Kim, I'm sure you can guess what happened. It's like when we were there, seeing all the signs, I still saw a number of tourists going off path because their selfies were more important than staying on path and staying safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so how this relates to our security awareness training is like, well, we're telling people what to do, but and like I said, the security awareness training is getting better, and so people are learning consequences, but they're still making poor choices, at work. So that's kind of my illustration then with the Volcanoes National Park of like, you can only do so much, and people, have free will, and they're going to still make the choices that they choose to make.
They're still going to click on that link that says click on this and you're going to get a $50 whatever, and that's going to be more
Yeah.
important to them than what the CISOs told you not to do or the security team told you not to do. Really quick, I do want to say, we do a lot of these bourbon virtual happy hours, and the CISOs talk to each other about what works for them and what doesn't. And one CISO from a big bank, big bank, they have security training day. I think they do it once a quarter, and they just send out tons of phishing emails. And the winner, they just do it to the whole staff, and whoever wins by not I forgot how he does it, but they end up getting like a one of those little games. I can't think of what it's called. My daughter has one, the little
Oh, like
gaming.
Nintendo Switch?
Yeah,
Or
and then
like that?
the Nintendo
Yeah.
DS. So they'll give those out. So now his teams, like out of everything they do, they look forward to security training day because
Oh, that's awesome.
there's a prize they get for it, and so now they're actually invested in trying to figure out, is this a phishing email or is it not? And it's just a game the security team plays with the whole, staff. So now, because there's something in it for them, they're more invested in it. So
Yeah,
I
exactly. Another thing that I covered as part of this topic with the audience was that October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and take advantage of that. CISA has a lot of free resources that you can use, and I've used some of their resources. One of the things I did in an organization I worked in is I worked with the communications department, and they recorded videos of the executives acting out TikTok videos for different security awareness topics, like finding USB drive on the ground and throwing it away, saying that was so cringe, and things like that. So so you can have some fun with it, and we'll keep the audience engaged, or keep not that, but I guess it's your audience at that point, since they're watching the video. But
yeah. And so your last topic, because we're down to about 4 minutes, what is your last important topic you wanted to touch on?
yeah, and I know this is going to resonate strong with you, Kim. Is that since you work with a lot of security people, and really it's keep your ego in check. There are we talked about this before. You can learn from the most junior level person to the most senior level person on your team. And I brought up the example, and I think, Kim, you and I may have talked about this, that I think you may have met or knew Michael Asante, who had passed away about 4 years ago. But for those of you who don't know, I'll just go really quick since we are short on time now, is that he's the one who led the Aurora Generator project at Idaho National Labs many years ago. And because of his work, he really raised awareness for what could happen to our power grid if the cyber attackers were to attack it, and how easy it would be for them to create a massive disruption with that. And Michael was recognized worldwide for his efforts in industrial control security. Unfortunately, he passed away. It's about 4 years ago now, actually 4 years ago in just a few days. And I was actually personal friends with him, not just industry friends, but I was actually personal friends with him. So I knew him pretty well on that level. And here's a guy that he was talking to leaders around the world, congressional members and such, and he just had no ego to him. You talk to him, and I mean, he was authority. You recognize that he was an authority in the space, but he wasn't like boastful or rude about it. That he was just a really friendly guy. And after he passed away, the day after he passed away, he was recognized on both floors of Congress for his work in cybersecurity. So, what a huge honor! And so, I guess for people who have an ego in cybersecurity, it's like, well, there's always going to be someone who's better. And second of all, it's just not the way to be. It's like, we're all trying to work really hard. We all have the same goal in mind of keep our organizations and ourselves safe, and we can do that without just letting ego get in the way.
Yeah, that's a great way to end, because I've met so many wonderful people, more wonderful people in the industry than the people that do need to check their ego, but there are some of them out there, and it's a shame because we are all in this together. And I had, I didn't know you said yes to a LinkedIn message that you would come and keynote our event. And I love when that happens. And I got to know you at the event, and you're just a really great guy. And, I mean, you're the perfect example that you do not have, you're just real. You're a normal, real guy doing great things. So we are
Thank
at the end. Merlin Namuth, who is the Chief Information Security Officer from Repay. Thank you for spending the last hour with us. Thank you for keynote speaking in Denver. Thank you for saying yes. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing in the industry. Everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of And Security for All. I hope you guys all have a fabulous weekend. Enjoy the 4th of July, and you guys all stay safe and secure, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.